Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast. I'm Ewan Graf, and as always, I'm joined by Lachlan Thiele.
On episode 204, retirement is temporary. Hayao Miyazaki retired, but then 10 years later made Boy and the Heron. Daniel Day-Lewis stopped acting in 1997 and then came back for Gangs of New York. Joe Pesci stopped at the end of the century and then returned in 2010. Ko Hee Kwan stopped in the 80s and then had a massive comeback in the past couple of years. And now, Daniel Day-Lewis, who retired again after Phantom Thread, is returning to acting. So, wow, that's one big bit of news, but there's also a ton more.
Yes, we'll talk about that. And then it's early here, just to preface, this is not usually how my face looks like, but I'll try my best. It's 6 a.m. on day 2 of the Zurich Film Festival. And I would be remiss not to tell you what I've already seen on day 1, because there were some highlights. I'll also tell you why A24 quietly dropped The Front Room by the little brothers of Robert Eggers, and why the Rosemary's Baby prequel Apartment 7A feels more like a pointless remake than a building stone in the franchise.
Finally, Joker Me, Joker You, Joker 2, Joker, Folie, Deux. Legendary cinematic masterpiece director Todd Phillips returns to the Crown Prince of Crime Joker with Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga with this sequel that I'm sure is going to cause a lot of conversations, not only between myself and Ewan, who have both seen this. Ewan, you saw it weeks ago in Venice. I saw it yesterday morning, so it is fresh as it can be in my mind, but also between fans of the original and critics. Ewan, I think I can comfortably say, after seeing this movie, I think this is going to be a fantastic episode.
I agree, so let's cue up the intro and get into it. We are professional.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes.
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there.
Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is gonna
me a
be
hat
a
as
bit...
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
Welcome back, Lachlan. It's an exciting
Hello.
week for movies. People, like you said, are gonna have lots to talk about with Joker.
A lot.
I think it's not going to be as big commercially and as well as like the praise, but we'll get into that, like the dilemma of like who Joker 2 Folie à Deux is actually for. But I can safely say that, Daniel Day-Lewis is one of the greats when it comes to acting.
Yeah.
And I think everyone was in mourning that he has chosen to retire for filmmakers when they end up retiring, or maybe, it maybe feels more gradual because actors could make feasibly up to 3-4 movies a year. But with him, there was always that sort of dedication. He also carries with him that gravitas of really going in for the role, not really half-assing anything. And I think that sort of dedication is what many really appreciate about him. I feel like for me, it was pretty clear that he wouldn't return. I was not expecting this at all, and I think the whole cinema world was a bit surprised. But we got basically leaked pictures of from the set of his son Ronan's debut feature, Anemone. Or Anemone, I don't know how you actually say that. It's also starring Samantha Morton and Sean Bean, so we can assume that character is going to die. And apparently the story is about family bonds between fathers, sons, and brothers as complex relationships unfold through personal journeys of generational conflicts. And I mean, that's very vague. I think we aren't really getting something soon from this. It seems to be like in early stages of shooting, and with someone of Daniel Day-Lewis's caliber, you wouldn't really be able to keep that under wraps for long. Lachlan, what's your relationship with Daniel Day-Lewis filmography? Are you like a big fan, or?
Very few, but I respect the hustle. I have obviously There Will Be Blood was one of the first films that I've seen with him in it, and I was just taken away by what he was able to bring to the screen. And as much as I appreciate the filmmaking, it was that performance that kept me engaged. And I will admit, there is a lot of his films that I feel like I should definitely go and see. But I think his story is really cool, like retiring and coming out and then coming back for like a role that he's interested in. So it's
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see whether maybe he's just coming back for support of his son. Maybe he's coming back for, he saw this character and was engaged and thought, let's jump into it. So I'm kind of keen.
Yeah, I mean, there's the meta level of it's saying being about like fathers and sons and brothers and his own son directing him there. There might be like a layer to it where he actually gets a lot out of it. And I think with the right role and the right person behind it, I feel like everyone could get out of retirement if it just kind of makes sense. So hopefully it's a good movie. I personally haven't seen like a ton of his films either. Only I think about like 5. But he doesn't really have a really like quantitatively large filmography. It's more in the quality way it shines. And I mean, I've seen the 4 big ones like Lincoln, Gangs of New York, There Will Be Blood, and then most recently I've watched Phantom Thread, which was a really captivating movie too. And yeah, I feel like we can expect this movie to come out in the next like 2 years, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Then MegaFLOPolis can officially now be called MegaFLOPolis, like I've been saying since Gun, and I've been seeing a lot of other outlets calling it like MegaFLOPolis, and I'm like, not that I would be influential and they would have gotten it from the show, but I said it first, man. I said it first. But with a $4 million domestic opening on a $120 million budget, it was actually I think somewhere in the ballpark of the second biggest loser for a movie with a budget over 100 million when it comes to the opening. Only behind that, a really abysmal late 90s movie, I think it was from Eddie Murphy, The Adventures of Pluto Nash, which I have never heard of. But shout out to Dan Murrell. He made like a breakdown of the box office returns. And apparently it's like up in there, especially for a movie of its cost for that low an opening. And I think internationally, even to the day that we record right now on Friday, the 4th of October, I think it's around like 7 million. But yeah, I think it wasn't like expected to bring back the money, but it came in so much lower than the expected. We both didn't like it. If you watched last week's show, we both gave it a quite low rating and had a lot of gripes with it, especially in the editing. Would you still would you still want him to succeed here commercially? Or like, do you have malice there that like, no, this should flop? Like, what
No, absolutely not. He is
neither.
an artist. He is making something that he wants to make, and there is definitely the argument to be made about criticizing artwork, but at the end of the day, you're still making something that people are going to have conversations around. And it's not so much that we didn't like it, was just, we just don't think the way it was crafted and ended up coming together was clean, and that irritates me more than anything else.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go out there and tell people not to go see this movie. In fact, I think that people should go and see it and make up their own minds and come to their own conclusions. Because, as I said last week, the analogy that I gave was this movie is a well-done steak. And people like well-done steaks. That's how they like their steak done. So for some people, this movie is going to be it. But I feel like for people who want a steak, there's a fly in my room and it's really irritating me.
There's one here as well.
Yeah.
It's the earlier recording slot. They're like,
God.
it's fly time, man. It's fly time. We haven't booked
But-
this
but-
room yet. It's flies.
Most people are going to want something that's not completely cooked through all the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. In fact, I have actually started a process to help Ford Francis Ford Coppola. The fly just got really close. It's a big one. As they are in Australia,
fly.
obviously.
Yeah.
Friends, sorry, let me restart. I'm gonna get this fucker. Hang on, give me a fucking second. I'm gonna get this fucker out. He's really irritating me. That was a big boy. Like nothing ever happened. Where was I up to? So I've actually started a thing because I want Francis Ford Coppola to at least not be completely bankrupt. Which is why Ewan, hopefully, because I've got this currently locked up in a safe, because I don't want this to get stolen or anything, but I've just sent you a picture, so hopefully you can put that on the screen, and once you see it, let me know once you got that. Because not a lot of these were actually not a lot of these were made. Obviously, do you see that?
Cinemas, a seat for
Yeah.
cinema.
That's
for
a
last
ticket for
Friday.
MegaFLOPolis. Not a lot of these were made. Because not a lot of people went and got and seen it in cinemas. So I'm actually selling
In years' time,
my
it will
ticket.
be.
I'm actually going to sell my MegaFLOPolis ticket because not a lot of these were produced. Obviously, domestically, 4 million. Not a lot of these were produced. And a lot of people just, some people don't get tickets. Some people just get like a little QR code that they scan when they go into the cinemas. I made sure I got this ticket because, and obviously it's crumpled because when I was watching the movie, I got really pissed off and I wasn't going to put it in the rubbish. But then I realized, no, I can make money off of this. So I've currently got it locked up. It's nice and safe. Hopefully the ink won't fade, which is why it's in the safe. I'm going to put it on eBay in about 10 years' time. And hopefully we can get a bidding war for Mr. Coppola to make some money back.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of those things where like the reissued Pokemon cards would not make as much money, but because there's only like, the original like 151 Pokemon that were out, it's probably like the same amount for the total ticket numbers for Australia. So yeah, hold on to that. It might be worth some money there. And then I think you are quite excited about this next one, the Electric State, right? That's something exactly. So there was the first look that we got from the Russo brothers. It stars Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt, Anthony Mackie, Brian Cox, Woody Harrelson, Giancarlo Esposito, which hasn't been, Giancarlo Esposito. No, apparently I'm saying his name wrong. Apparently it's not Esposito. It's a bit different, but anyways, and Ke Kwan, and that one's releasing early next year. And my God, those first look pictures look horrible, right? That especially with the characters in it, I don't mind the stuff that's like production design. I think that's fine, but Jesus Christ, the makeup and hair work, and it seems so like theater production and not major movie picture that had like, obviously because it's the Russo brothers, they don't do anything that's under $100 million like budget wise. What did you think? And I guess where's your disappointment level at?
So I was keen until I saw these because the graphic novel has some of the prettiest images of this crazy dystopian future. And I feel like, this is a first look, right? So I can't be too pissed off, but I can already tell how much comedy they're going to be putting in this movie. And I don't want that.
It's Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby. I never watched Movies Brown, so
I can already see the like humor between the two, which is really going to be irritating. I can already tell there's going to be some stupid jokes between all the animatronics. I'm not keen for that, but disappointed.
Yeah, it doesn't look. That's what I was saying when the Russo brothers were, tagged onto this project. But you were still, I think, reluctant to say that this is like a flop because they've done some good things. But if it's just the same comedic tone that they have across all of their projects, it obviously it got them a lot of acclaim when they were doing it in Community within this like tone of that show with the paintball episodes, because it worked for that show because it was a comedy show, but it doesn't really work with every single movie. And their ensemble work has not always worked like tonally for that. But we'll wait and see, and likely with it being out in early 2025, we might even dedicate a main review to it if there's enough to say about it. Although hopefully, there's some good in that project. And then I wanted to bring something up that we don't have to, because we don't have as much time today, because we gotta head to the Zurich Film Festival. But I wanted to talk about something because I saw a quote from Sydney Sweeny where she was talking about a paparazzis that go to like extreme measures to get photos of her and are risking her safety by like doxing her, revealing her location, and it's pretty gross, I gotta say. And there was a quote that she said, like the paparazzis told her family if she just comes outside in a bikini, like they'll take pictures and leave you alone. And she basically had the very understandable sentiment that she should be able to be in her home and feel comfortable and safe. And in recent news, I think there was also this thing with Chappell Roan, who's having a big moment, some great music that she's been releasing for a while now, where she was basically like criticizing the fan behavior online and in person. And there's a lot of other stories like these, and I just feel like I've always had that with like the boundaries of not really seeing famous people as people and as commodities and as these shining stars of bigger numbers and lots of eyes on them, that really makes them like commodified in a weird way. And I've just been seeing that. Maybe it's just because I've been paying attention a bit more to it more and more recently, and it's just like it's really really gross to me. Yeah, what do you think about like this? It's not really a news item. I don't know if you have any opinion on this, but obviously, like, this is a bad thing with paparazzi, and has always been. It goes back to Princess Diana. This is like literally having an effect on someone's safety and on someone's like well-being. What do you think?
I've never liked the idea of paparazzis. I never liked the concept of it. I think that this is my favorite. I'm so fucking good with analogies. Yeah.
It's a safe
So,
again.
In politics, there's far left and far right. Okay, and
sure.
I do not believe like those are the extremes, right?
Yeah.
Photography. Paparazzis are like a far left or right swinging photographer, right? They're just the extremes. They're the bad of the group. You don't want to be associated with them. You don't like. I'm a photographer. Oh god, paparazzis. No, I'm not a paparazzi. Like I like to take photos of things. I like to do weddings. But like it's like the extremists, right? Like religious fanatics, right? Those particular groups. That's a paparazzi, right? They take their camera too far. Yeah. I fucking hate paparazzis.
Yeah, the nature photographers are straight dead in the middle. Like, you wouldn't really have them on either side, but they're like, oh, I capture nature, and if there's something that like morally maybe, us was gonna, oh no, the poor I don't know, the poor antelope gets eaten by a lion, and they take a picture of it. That's nature, and they're like smart. But yeah, I don't know. It's to me, it's like it's pretty scary, especially with leaking information, because I feel like in a digital age that will be way more easily the case. Like, for example, like this is something completely different, but on Twitch, a streamer who fuck, I'm blanking, not on a name. Her name is Iron Mouse, but like VTubing, VTubing I think is what it's called. Broke like a sub record just recently, and she hasn't revealed like what she looks like, because she has an immune deficiency, a disease that's also there's a foundation for it that is unfortunately called the IDF, but it's a different one, not the Israeli Defense Fund, that she's raising money for. Really notable, she's suffering from this as well. And like, long story short, to get to my point here, is that someone sent false copyright claims to her YouTube account, and the way that you have to dispute them is you have to put in your legal name, information, your address, and all of that. And if someone hacks you and does it for that reason, they can dox you. And it's pretty scary. And like stuff like that, it's just going to continue, especially with people who have a lot of eyes on them. And yeah, I don't know. It just kind of scares me for their sake. And sometimes we get overly involved with a famous person's life, their love life, their like shortcomings, whatever. And I feel like that to me is just, oftentimes it's young people, but more often than not, it's like 20, 30 somethings who like, I don't know, there's something wired wrongly in your brain if you're like that involved in someone else's life that like they don't even know you exist. I don't know. I have lots of opinions on this, but I'll keep them to myself. Like that's why, to me, I think I really like the sentiment of person online. If you are watching this and you're like, I don't know, you watch week to week a show, or like even hours, And at some point, we just rub you the wrong way. And instead of just being like overly invested in like, I don't know, what we do, you always have the opportunity to just like go. And I feel like if the quality isn't there for you, you should just like let things go and move on. And I think some people are so obsessed with certain people that they don't. Obviously, we don't have that issue. But I see it more and more. And it's just, I don't know. It's confusing to me why that's happening. It's a bit of a detour for our usual suspects, our usual discussion points of news and castings and all that. But there was also the sad news this week that a couple of like notable people in the media space passed away. The two that I wanted to honor here briefly were Maggie Smith and Kristofferson. Maggie Smith, obviously, we both had the touching point with her through the Harry Potter movies. I think that's where a lot of people will know her as McGonagall, and yeah, one of the like early, I would maybe not mother figures, but like for the figures that have like a warmly thing to you, and I feel like they kind of transcended the through the screen. And then Kristofferson, who's someone who had such a vibrant career of all the things. Like if you read up on like, in his obituary, what you would write about like what he did. I think he was 77. So much. Lived a full life, and yeah, sad to see them pass. But as always, we celebrate their lives even if they're not here anymore. Lachlan, you have any thoughts on those two? Any anecdotes?
No, I agree. I mean, Maggie Smith is obviously McGonagall in my eyes. That's how I grew up with her. But
yeah,
I have come across some of her other films that she's been in. And if you look at her filmography, she's in a bunch of stuff that just like voice wise, you might have heard her voice and not realized it was her. Until you go through her IMDb and be like, man, how many credits? 85 credits in the actress category, and 2-time Oscar winner, which is crazy. Kristofferson is as well, one of the greatest names of all time. Again, like
definitely
major star. Star is Born, Blade, all that jazz. It's a shame to see people go, but we're entering a phase now where like we have like the peak of Hollywood stars being sort of in that sort of like 60s to maybe early 2000s, because we don't really have Hollywood stars anymore. Those first generation of massive stars are getting to that age where some of them are just going to be dying of old age and whatnot. I know Maggie Smith was 89. I'm not sure how old Kristofferson was.
Yeah, I said 77. He was 88. Yeah. I thought he just gave off a younger vibe still. But yeah,
that is going to be a kind of thing that's going to be happening more and more, and it's not going to stop because that is life.
With our filmmakers too, it's just a part of life. But we have a couple of really iconic filmmakers who are really getting up in age, and I just would love to. We just had a story of not getting overly involved in these media people's life, but with some of the directors, that's going to be a sad day. I think still. That when they pass, but let's not dwell into that. It's early in the morning. You can get caught up in the feelings real easy, and let's have a look at all the quick news of new film productions starting, wrapping, and castings being announced over in quick news. Gareth Edwards' Jurassic World Rebirth has wrapped filming. It stars Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, Rupert Friend, and Mahershala Ali, and is set to release on July 2nd in 2025.
Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein has also reportedly wrapped filming, starring Jacob Elordi, Oscar Isaac, Mia Goth, and Christoph Waltz. It's coming soon to Netflix.
David Michôd has begun filming his Christy Martin biopic starring Sydney Sweeney. Also in the cast are Ben Foster, Meredith Weaver, and Katie O'Brien.
Kristen Dunst has been cast in Roofman alongside Channing Tatum. Hold on to your socks, listen to this one. The film follows a robber who lived in a Toys R Us store and broke into more than 60 McDonald's, then emptied the cash registers after herding staff into freezers.
That's such so interesting and so much fun. Looking forward to that. Then Scream 7 will release in February 2027 in 2026. And Neve Campbell is set to return as Sydney, with Kevin Williamson set to direct after they had the dilemma of Melissa Barrera and Jonah Ortega exiting the movie earlier this year or last year.
Magazine Dreams has been acquired by Briarcliff to early release in 2025. Searchlight originally acquired the film after Jonathan Majors got major award buzz for his performance, but he was then found guilty of assault and harassment.
Exactly. Briarcliff is the same outlet, same distributor that picked up The Apprentice. So I guess they're making a name for themselves going after these rather controversial movies that, I guess no legal trouble incoming for this one. But from the early reviews coming out of Sundance earlier this year for this, was it last year even? They were like quite hyped about it. And I'm interested to still see the movie, even if Jonathan Majors, doesn't seem like a good person. Halle Berry has been cast in Crime 101 alongside Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, and Barry Keoghan. The heist thriller follows high-level jewel thefts taking place up and down the Pacific coast, where a detective zeroes in on a thief looking for a final score.
John Boyega and Danielle Deadwire have been cast in Otis Redding and his widow Zelma Redding in a new biopic, Otis and Zelma.
A live-action CGI hybrid Rugrats movie is in the works.
Gross. Very gross. I haven't seen season 1, but Sugar has been renewed for season 2 over at Apple TV+.
Yeah, the first season, I think, has like a point where it loses a lot of people. And I don't know where they'll like specifically continue. Well, I guess they didn't finish up the story in season 1, but that's going to be an interesting one. I'm actually quite keen to watch season 2. Then the Spider-Noir series has begun filming, starring Nicolas Cage, Brendan Gleeson, Lamorne Morris, Lee Jun Lee, and Jack Houston.
Melissa Barrera has been cast alongside Simu Liu in an untitled espionage techno thriller series. The series follows an AI analyst who realizes his brain has been hijacked, giving the perpetrator access to everything he sees and hears. This sounds like a little like Upgrade.
There's also the Black Mirror episode where like the mother has where she can censor it's a bunch of things. Also, the big word in here is AI. They got named up AI. We'll have to wait and see. Then an action RPG AAA game for Avatar: The Last Airbender is in the works, developed by Paramount Game Studio and Saber Interactive. I didn't know that Paramount had I guess most studios do have like these. They had them in the 2000s where they was just doing a tie-in game with literally every movie that came out. But this will follow an all-new, never-before-seen Avatar and will take place thousands of years in the past.
I also haven't seen this, but Arcane Season 1 will become one of the few Netflix original shows to be released on 4K UHD physical media next week, which I wish they
put
released
this in for you.
Edge Runners, because I haven't seen Arcane.
Oh,
maybe I should watch it. Should I get the 4K? Should I get
that's
it?
That's why I put it into news. It was more or less for the audience. I think Arcane was really good, especially visually. And I think on a 4K, this is worth getting. It's such stellar animation. Edge Runners was the same, but
fuck, the collector's
Arcane was
edition
more beautiful.
is $219.
It's as much as
I don't need the collector's edition.
It's like, do you get a bunch of skins for League of Legends as well? Isn't that like a free-to-play game when people spend money on characters or skins or something? It's like one of those.
It's $80
I've literally
for the 4K.
played, I think, like 2 games of League of Legends, and then I
maybe I should watch it because I have Netflix, and then if I like it, I'll buy it.
That does sound like a pretty good idea. Yeah. And with season 2 coming out later this year, might be worth getting.
They should do Edge Runners on 4K. I would buy that.
Are they still doing a second season of Edge Runners? I forget if that's.
I think they're doing like a spin-off thing, but I would buy a 4K of Edge Runners. I love that.
Running on the Edge is what that was.
I'm actually replaying Cyberpunk. right now.
He turned this off. I see always what Kevin is playing because he has it tied to his Discord account. But Lachlan's rarely online and doesn't have it connected, and maybe isn't even playing on his PC set up that way because he has it on Mac. So I never see what he's playing. I would love to stalk.
I don't play games on Mac. I'm not a fucking
obviously not. That's why
demon.
it doesn't show up. I know.
I have this.
I know.
I play on
He's
this.
Steam Deck. He's Steam Deck. He's a little Switch boy. But the final news item for quick news: Abbott. There's seemingly and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and an Abbott Elementary crossover coming. There was a photo that they shared all together. Obviously, both shows take place in Philly, and I'm a fan of both of them. And I think they've done some nice tie-overs with like celebrities that fit in. But with these characters, that could be like incredibly funny. Very much looking forward to the next season of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They unfortunately just kind of ended their podcast when the strikes were happening, and they've never returned to it. I don't know if they commented on like why. I haven't really seen any of that, but I'd love for that podcast to come back because they got a lot of episodes and a lot of seasons they can run through. Aren't they like up to like season 17 or something crazy like that? Like a really long running show that still has quality episodes coming out. But yeah, that's it for the quick news. Then we have a bunch of trailers. Lachlan, we will proceed with caution to whatever I guess interests us here most. But first up, we can talk about a movie that I've already seen. Babygirl. There's also a review out on the channel if you're interested. It's from Helena Rain, who did the Bodies movie 2 years ago, and is basically this erotic thriller that sees a CEO of a big company get involved sexually with an intern, and a bit of like power play being played between them, where she's basically submitting to him in like not just in the bedroom but also in other situations to spice up the excitement in her sex life. I think this movie is like, it's juicy. That's a good way to describe it. And I think it's a ton of fun. I really, really enjoyed the tensions that are there, but I also think it's a pretty good trailer. But what do you make of it?
Yeah, at first I was like, I don't think. At first it starts off like one of those classic, like romantic movie.
Yeah.
Like those ones, and I was like, I'm good. And then by the end of the trailer, my brain goes, I think I should watch this because this looks dope. I'm very keen. I'm very keen. Also, her husband was
Antonio
Banderas. Yeah. Nah, I don't believe it. He's a handsome bloke. Ain't gonna happen in real life. You should put someone else as the husband. But yeah, just saying. He's a good-looking bloke. No one's gonna cheat on him.
I think that is one of the like that is part of the movie. That like he's a good-looking, like she has a good husband. But there's just something like lacking that isn't really fulfilling her in that way. And like I think it's not the movie's also not setting her out to be like this. She's like down on her luck and she just needs someone to sweep her off her feet. It's also like from her standpoint, it's pretty selfish what she's doing. But I liked it. I had a lot of momentum carrying itself. Then for Nosferatu, I said for you, Lachlan, I said no watchy for Loki if he doesn't want to watchy. And I'm sorry for that that I touched that message to you. It's unwarranted. But did you check out the second trailer for Nosferatu, or did you stay clear of it? Yeah, okay.
I watched it.
Still, like sometimes with movies we reach a point where like, okay, I've seen just about enough, or maybe a tad bit too much. I won't be watching the trailers anymore. I'm ready to go see the film, and I respect that. Even if you don't want to see like a trailer at all for movies, it's hard these days if you go to theaters to I guess going completely like blind that way. But yeah, this showed a bit more of different clips, different sections of the movie, a bit more of the acting of Lily Rose Depp, which I am still not sold on. I think it's still my biggest anxiety point going into this film, if like she can actually carry a lead performance here. But I love the imagery at the end. You know that I have you seen the original Nosferatu from 2022? right, a lot of that is the shadow play. And even in last week with MegaFLOPolis, there was shadow play in that movie as well, where like they work with that. And I think it's such an easy filmmaking trick that's great. And someone like Robert Eggers can certainly pull it off. Funnily enough, both Nosferatu and Babygirl are Christmas Day movies. They come out on the 25th. But that's a treat for me to have those two movies come out. But yeah, Lachlan, what did you think of the trailer?
I want this movie right now. I want it so bad, dude.
Me too.
Oh,
I'm
man.
so keen.
Only reason I watched it is I have full faith in Robert Eggers' ability to craft a film that even if I was to have the entire thing spoiled, I would just be frothing the entire time over tiny little details that he's probably obsessed about. I've loved everything he's done, and I'm personally super excited to maybe go back and rewatch his other films before I go watch Nosferatu. Especially because I haven't actually rewatched the Northman. Since seeing it, so I'd be super keen to rewatch that, especially because I've got it on 4K as well. But I'm super keen for this movie. I did a thumbs up accidentally. You get a thumbs up, sweet. I'm super keen for this movie, and I would happily watch another trailer because I'm under the belief that spoilers do not ruin a movie if the movie is crafted in such a good way. Yeah. I think that my favorite example to give when someone's like, "Oh, spoilers ruin movies." One of the most successful commercial box office hits up until the late 2000s was a movie, small movie, might have heard of it, called Titanic. And everyone who went into that movie definitely knew that Titanic was not fucking floating by the end of the movie. That was spoiled 100+ years ago. No,
I think there's a couple of different tiers of spoilers.
Yeah,
I think
I'm exaggerating it.
For who done it would suck. For like a thriller, it sometimes would suck.
Yeah.
For a mystery movie, but for Nosferatu, right? We kind of know the story, right? So it's fine.
Oh man, and they do the thing right at the end where they're like, "Oh, I was so worried because like they're gonna show the monster." They don't show the monster, and the monster is fucking right there. It just had me by the fucking balls, dude.
Yeah. To me,
like Nicole
it was like
Kidman in that movie.
Touche.
What's his name? What's the actor's name?
George Dickinson. Harris Dickinson.
Yeah.
I think I said George.
He has. That's
George
the
McKay,
fucking. That's my Nosferatu. I'm Nicole Kidman. Nosferatu's my Harrison Dickinson.
Funnily enough, to me, like that original Nosferatu film, I was part in high school. I was part of like a film club that I joined, and I think I would attribute a bunch of my like interest into film and making it my career as well to like seeing that movie early, and it's like, holy shit, a movie that was at that point like about like 90 years old or something, being so riveting still. I was like, what the fuck? There's no sound in this. It just plays with like long played out scene and atmosphere, and Robert Eggers seems to be the perfect person to like recapture that in a more modern sense for his type of filmmaking. So I'm really, really keen for Nosferatu too. There have been some early reactions, I think, of test screenings that they've done that weren't like as favorable on it, and I would say, of course, because you're not getting the audience in that is like interested. It's not like The Lighthouse made $200 million. You know, there's a niche audience for it. The Northman, even, which was such a fucking great movie, still fell short in the budget it had and what it was grossing. So it's niche, but it certainly is for the two of us, and yeah, we couldn't be more excited.
Do you know how much money he was given for this one, by the way? Do you know how much money he got given?
No, I don't know. No. Do you have a report? Who's the distributor for Nosferatu? Is it Universal again? No, it's Focus Features. Yeah, no, that's what I thought. It's Focus Features. Yeah.
People just keep giving him money. It flops, and you know.
Which, by the way, Focus Features is Universal internationally. It's just in the States that it is Focus Feature.
Here's a great question.
So
yeah. Will Robert Eggers make his MegaFLOPolis?
What do you think, like that it will just not come together in that way, or what do you mean?
Like he'll write a film for 30 years and he'll be like, yeah, I've got all this money, I'm going to self-fund it in like 30 years' time. Do you think he's going to make a MegaFLOPolis?
I think with Yeah, so you feel like he's currently in that age of like The Godfathers and
Yeah.
Apocalypse
Yeah.
Now, like that type of era for him. That is such an interesting question, Lachlan, that I don't know. It's hard to say
Hey, sit on it.
what your future
Come
will
back
hold.
to it. Come back to it. Think about it. Let it simmer.
And a-
Let it simmer.
and a
Let's
long
get to
time,
Juror
yeah,
number
for
2. I'm super keen for this one.
And Kevin has been like, oh my god, been like so keen for this. I think a trailer was leaked, and then promptly after, Warner Brothers had to release the trailer a bit earlier than I think they were hoping for. This is another Clint Eastwood movie. It might be his last. We talked about like, these media people getting up in age. How old is Clint Eastwood? He's got to be in his
He's like
90s now.
90. He was born in 1930. What does that make him? 94?
Damn, 94. He's 94 years old. That's crazy. But yeah, this one comes out like it's not far off. November 1st is when this comes out. It's a story about a juror in a high profile murder trial that realizes that he's actually the one who committed the murder. And that is such an odd premise, but
It's a crazy premise.
watching the trailer, I guess it kind of makes sense. And then when you look at the cast of this, you're like, Jesus Christ, this is like a cast and a half, or maybe even a double cast. There's some great people in it, including especially J.K. Simmons, Toni Collette, Nicholas Hoult. Wow. So it's got some hefty star power when it comes to really capable Oscar winning actors even in this cast. And yeah, I'm keen. I'm interested.
Yeah, dude, I fingers crossed this is like great. Because I don't know what it was about this one. You could definitely have a worse trailer and it doesn't really do anything for me, but this definitely had me engaged with the premise first and foremost. I was like, that's a pretty fun premise, I'm not gonna lie. I could
Yeah.
see this being like just sick performances, character driven, focused. I'm super keen for that. I really also hope, if this is going to be his last, it being a banger. He can do really good stuff, and I think that he's probably put a lot of time and effort into this. So yeah, I'm keen.
Yeah, I mean, Nicholas Hoult even is someone, obviously he's going to star in like another big blockbuster movie as Lex Luthor soon, in the DC universe. But even in The Order, that is, by the way, playing also Babygirl, playing at the Zurich Film Festival. If you're in the area, definitely don't miss out on those screenings, because we're gonna talk about like when was it? When well, a couple of films that we're gonna talk in new releases this week that do not have Swiss distribution. So festivals are usually the one of the times where you can see those films. And in The Order, he's actually like playing this like fanatic, like not white supremacist leader that wants to overturn the like US government. And he's so haunting in it. I feel like but he plays it so naturally. So he's someone who I think is often like a bit overlooked, because he's a super capable actor. And with that ensemble cast, yeah, this is a must watch. And hopefully, because this is again, a movie not too far off announced, but it seems to be an America first focus, English speaking regions first focus. So hopefully we'll get like an international release for it as well. I don't know. Yeah, if we'll get that. And then Robbie Williams. Are you familiar with? Yes,
Yep.
yes, okay, yeah. It's also like my mom is a huge fan of him, so I've like listened to a lot of like his music, especially like Angel. I can hear the tune of like, and I sit and wait. There's an angel. And this movie is I got to see a whole bunch more than was shown here in the trailer, and I'm still not clear about like if I can talk about it or not, because I wasn't there as press. I was there as like basically exhibition for cinema, and I think it was just for us to sell us the movie. But I've seen a bunch more of the. I'll keep it vague, but like it like from that trailer, do you think this is going to focus more on like the biopic, play by play, like scenes playing out movie, or do you think this is more like a full on musical?
I can't really tell from the trailer.
Okay.
I think that it's a weird hybrid between the two. I don't think it's entirely going to be play by play.
He's also a monkey. Maybe we should say that.
Yeah, he's also a monkey.
He's a
Yeah,
monkey.
he's also a monkey.
monkey.
So I think it's probably gonna be, because like I love Rocket Man if we're thinking about
Yeah.
like most recent like famous singer artists, I didn't love Bohemian Rhapsody. That's a play-by-play example that I think is really good.
Yeah.
As an example, I think that Rocket Man is a good example of sort of more musically. And Elton
Yeah.
John should definitely be more dramatic, and the director for Better Man is obviously a producer for Rocket Man. And The Greatest Showman, obviously a massive musical, and I can see it being a weird hybrid, but I think it's going to be something a little bit different.
Lachlan,
you
this
couldn't
is
tell
a
by the
full-on
monkey.
musical. This is a full-on fucking musical.
Yeah.
I've seen 5 scenes from it, like longer scenes. I've seen like 22 minutes of the film. It's interesting how much of it is all played in music, and
Yeah.
there's going to be like elaborate dance sequences, like crazy jumping around, like really out there. Basically, what I expected Joker to do a bit more, and then that
I was about to
just, like,
say,
not
what do
there.
you if Joker 2 is a musical, what do you call this one, man?
It's like Joker 2 is barely a musical. I'm sorry, but like barely. It just has a couple of songs in it. But Better Man is like going full on out. It's still odd because it's like playing out the. I think it gets away with doing the kind of cringy thing of like retelling someone's life with them obviously being involved. And I think it's interesting with like the Pharrell doc that's documentary piece by piece that is also like retold through like Legos to spice it up a bit more. And then here you add something new to it as well. And I like it. It might be like odd and weird and not work at all, but I'd much rather see that than like the same old tried retelling play by play of like, and this is where they got addicted to drugs. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. It just kind of feels a bit samey when the standouts are just like, well, they were popular and then they got consumed by the popularity. I think if you don't do a spin on like what that means a bit more, and you're just like too caught up with like, oh, there's a familiar song I know. That's why like we don't really vibe with these music biopics. But this one seems to be a bit of a standout. If it's good, remains to be seen. Comes out January 17th, early next year. And then lastly, a quick one here, just because it was so weird. I also saw Heretic yesterday, so I can talk a bit more about Sophie Thatcher and her acting chops. But this one seems to be like a crazy. Would you even call this romance? Like, I don't know. It's how would you describe Companion, Lachlan?
A horror movie?
Yeah, a horror romance movie, right?
I think it's a horror movie, dude.
It's a full-on horror, yeah. Jack Wade
It's
is
rated
in the
R
lead
for
role.
strong violence, sexual content, and language throughout. So yeah, I think it's a horror movie, dude.
That ending shot is also just like so she's like tied to the chair and then is holding her hand out, and her hand is just burning and is being held at gunpoint. But there's just like a lot of, just in the couple of clips that we get, because it is a teaser trailer, there's a lot of like violence and murder happening. Even from her, like I see her holding a gun. I'm a bit confused as to what the tone is and what like the overall like playing of that dinner scene is in that film. I can't help but say it got me a bit interested, because I was like, I audibly after watching this trailer said, what the fuck? So like I don't know if it's any good, but it certainly piqued my interest.
I'm keen. I'll watch it.
Well, yeah, that's out the week before Better Man on January 10th. But that's it for the trailers and the news. So if you were so kindly to head on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those podcast pages, and leave us a rating, goes a long way to help us attend these festivals like I am right now in Zurich, to get screeners, to get reviews, to bring you the weekly content. And if you head on over to YouTube and you're watching that, and a like, a share, and a subscription goes a long way to support us as well. And we've been growing a bit as I start to clip a bit more of the Venice reviews. I've been finally getting around to getting all of those done. And I think, a 6.5 hour long vague recap of the festival is not as easy to click on as it is to say, hey, Joker Folie 2, 2 weeks before press reviews are coming out. We got ours. So it's been a bit rewarding to see like all of our work pay off. So thanks for those who've recently joined on the channel, and I hope you enjoy the content. But yeah, Lachlan, let's get to what we've been watching this week. And I see you continued on to something that you've talked about last week, where you saw the first 45 minutes of Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker.
Tarkovsky's. Yep.
There we go.
Tarkovsky's. Yep.
You finished it?
Yeah, I finally finished it. Turns out all of his stuff is free on YouTube, which I think is absolutely fantastic. It's this YouTube channel that has all of these Russian and Soviet films for free, and I think that a lot of places should do something similar to make them accessible, especially because some of these films, you want to preserve them, and you want them to be available for people to learn from, and I think that something like Stalker especially is quite you have to interpret it yourself, so there's not really a meaning behind it, like there probably is, and I'm not even going to start to try to figure it out, because in my review I post on Letterboxd, I was pretty much just like, I stared at a review like on Letterboxd, the little thing it has in the text box, for like 30 minutes, being like, I don't know how to put anything into words, because I was blown away. I thought it was incredible. So I had an absolutely delightful time. I really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars. I was going to give it 5, and I think I will probably give it 5. And I'm happy to make the exception of giving 5 stars on the first review for older films, because if an older film can be watched years later, that means it's held up. That makes the rewatchability a lot better. Yeah. And I think that that's an exception I'm happy to make. So I was willing to give it 5 stars, but because it's my first of his films, and I have like 6 or 7 to go, I'm gonna let those settle. But yeah, I think it was phenomenal. I had to pause it a bunch.
Continue watching Tarkovsky?
Yeah, especially because they're free. Okay. But I'm gonna have to. I paused it a lot because I had to kind of read a lot, and because they speak quite quickly, the subtitles go quite quickly. So I had to keep bouncing back and forth to kind of just make sure I soak everything in. So even though it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes, I still took probably like 3.5 hours to watch it, because I kept skipping back. So there was that. I also got some new DVDs. Do you want to see some?
Yes, please. DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks.
Blu-rays, 4Ks. So first and foremost, I have 3 categories. I have 2 movies from this year, a movie that I really like that I got on 4K, and 2 movies that I have not seen but came out on the year of my birth, and are international movies that I've been trying to get more and more into. I'll get into that in a second. Let's start off with the standard, the new ones that have come out this year. Challengers on Blu-ray.
Nice.
Civil War on... the green screen is popping through anything that's green. I forgot that's gonna be a thing. So the Civil War is in green. So yeah, I got these 2, which super excited to see that on 4K, because that was stunning. Happy to rewatch this whenever I want, because I absolutely loved it. I collected a 4K of American Psycho, but it's a very special edition.
Is it oh my god. Oh my god. Jesus
comes with
Christ.
like blood in it.
Oh my god.
How cool is that?
That is certainly
I'm never opening this, because if this pops in my drawer, or I'm gonna keep it in a Ziploc bag if I ever open it, because if it pops in my drawer and ruins my DVDs, I'll be fucking pissed off. But yeah, that's it's so cool. I love it. I fucking love it.
I guess it's a callback to that scene where like he gets like blood splattered all over his face. So yeah, you get to
it's so good. But yeah, also I didn't realize there was an American Psycho 2 with Mila Kunis.
Yeah, that one's
never seen it.
It's not. It was like it was a movie that wasn't made as a sequel, and then they just kind of tacked it onto it to make it like it's really bad.
I can't wait. It's not 4K. It's only a Blu-ray included.
It's in it as well.
Yeah, it's in here as well. Yeah, it comes with the 4K of both. It comes with the 4K and Blu-ray of American Psycho, and it also comes with the Blu-ray of American Psycho 2. But it also has an audio commentary from Mila Kunis and the director of 2 as well. So I'm keen for that. That seems like a lot of fun. Anyway, that's
fun one. International
then-
movies.
International movies. Now,
Mhm.
I've watched international film, but I've only ever really watched like the big ones, you know? The big
Yeah,
ones that everyone's kind of seen. So I've decided that if I see one come out on DVD, I will try to get that. So I do have a Blu-ray and a 4K of 2 movies that I've seen a lot of positive reviews around. One is a Japanese movie and one is a Korean movie, one by a director that you would know. But this is from Tashi Katino.
Kitano,
it's
yeah,
called
yeah.
Kitano.
Brother.
It's brothers. Brother,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm super keen for this. I
Mhm.
don't know anything about it, but this looked cool. And I'm super keen. And also, Kev has it on his watch list and he hasn't seen it. So something that I would have seen that Kev hasn't seen. So
Oh yeah,
hell
he'll
yeah.
probably tell you, but he probably owns it on DVD as well. He's like always
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
He's also going to, if you don't tell him personally before this episode comes out, he's going to message me like, "What the fuck, Lachlan had this and that." So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
so
going to be interesting.
I'll make sure I do that. And the other one is a Park Chan-wook film, Joint Security Area.
Oh yes, you've not seen this yet, right?
Never seen it.
I love this movie. It's so
I
good.
heard it's fantastic.
Yeah, I really
so
like it.
I'm super keen to see this. Also, Kev hasn't seen it, so another movie that I'll get to watch that Kevin hasn't watched. I see that you've given it 4.5 stars. It's 4.5
Yeah.
stars all around. I think the lowest rating is 3 stars, which is that's
Yeah,
still
man.
quite a positive review. But yeah, man, this is a
It's fun.
great haul of
Great haul, yeah.
DVDs and stuff that I've got. So yeah.
Can agree. Yeah, I watched some stuff as well. I watched a movie last week and I totally forgot to mention it. And oh my god, how can I do that? You gotta know every single thing that I watch, even if it's a YouTube short. You know, I gotta drop it in what we've been watching. But no, I with Grave of the Fireflies heading over to Netflix, it was a matter of time until I gave that one the first proper rewatch. And you know, you've seen Grave of the Fireflies, Lachlan. It kind of wrecks you, and you kind of don't want to watch it ever again.
You don't ever watch it ever again, and it makes you not want to watch things, and that's kind of what Stalker did to me this
yes.
week. I had to kind of like,
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, I don't really want to watch anything else because like I'm wrecked.
I had that thing where like I watched that movie. I watched Grave of the Fireflies like I'd say like late afternoon, and I had work to do, but I was just sitting at my desk here and just like for half an hour, like you were staying at your Letterboxd review, and it's just like life was washing over me. I was like, shit, I can't do anything right now.
Yeah.
And obviously, I was crying about like a minute into this movie, and it didn't really let up. I think it's still one of the most like moving cinema experiences to me I've ever had, even on the rewatch. And if you can, I feel like everyone should at least see this once in their lifetime. I think it has so much to add that isn't just like a sad dead kids movie. It's more than that, but noticing this time around that it starts off with like a devastating blow that you obviously like, maybe you get the tone that there's something like looming over this whole story, but I especially love the editing this time around. Like the frequent glimpses of like a better life, a enjoying the things, and then being cut like thrown back to the reality of it all, while not just using like over the top dream sequences, but more the tangible ideas that these two characters have in this movie. It's such a moving film, and I still believe it's like probably Ghibli's like best artistry and movie overall in a story sense. Some of the other films are like more entertaining and more maybe visually compelling or whatever, but to me, like, this is probably like the single biggest achievement that they have had as a studio. And yeah, Isao Takahata, an incredible filmmaker. But yeah, I watched another film, obviously Grave of the Fireflies, 5 stars, easy, and it's in my top 4 over on Letterboxd. I don't know if it is right now, because like my top 4 was at one point too sad and depressing that when I got really close and interviewed like by Letterboxd at Gun early this year, I was like, if they ever ask me what my top 4 is, I don't want to be I don't want to have it be just like all depressing movies. Would be a bit too much. But Kevin, talking about him again, got me onto like the National Theatre Live collection. He got a subscription for it because there's a lot of like Andrew Scott in there doing performances. He did Vanya, and there's one from 2022 starring Jodie Comer of Prima Facie, which is a actually by a Australian playwright. She made it, I think, in 2021, and then it was adapted for a London performance at the National Theatre. And it's basically this one-person show where Jodie Comer plays a young barrister who is on the legal defense team of basically defending rapists and sexual assaulters, and questioning the women that are that claim to have been assaulted by them. Like it breaks it down from a character that is on the side of the law and like believes it to be like the true end all of like this is fair, and then putting that whole system under its own scrutiny when she becomes a victim of assault. And I think it kind of like there's a real easy through line to follow here. And obviously, like, not in a story sense, in a plot sense, the most challenging. But what is so incredibly impressive about it is that Jodie Comer's doing every single voice, and she's like doing this recount thing, and like like she's talking nonstop. I don't know if anyone has ever talked as fast as she has in 105 minutes. It is incredibly impressive. Like, just further confirmed to me that her like role in The Last Duel was not a single thing. She really was to stand out in that film and was amazing in it. And yeah, if you I think you can just like get the recordings. If you get a subscription, you can just get it for 1 month, and there's a ton of like really good live recordings of plays there. And I might even watch some more. I'm watching the Fleabag one. I just thought that like if you weren't there, you could never see them. I didn't know that there was recordings of it, and I do like theater quite a bit, so I might be watching more of those. Then briefly I watched Rez Ball, which is about this Native American team that is like a sports movie that is not really in a sort of way like challenging that like type of mold of inspirational. You got to overcome it, but it has like a lot of the undertones of a bunch of like really dark realities of Native American culture that is riddled with a lot of like alcoholism, like suicide, and just a lot of like tragic things that happen in those communities more often than it is in the rest of the states. And then it's also like a really engaging basketball movie. I think it's a bit too cheesy in parts for me. I gave it like a 6 out of 10. I think it's still worthwhile if you do like basketball though. And then Apartment 7A, I watched Rosemary's Baby a week ago because there was this movie coming out, Apartment 7A. If you've seen Rosemary's Baby, I mean, slight spoiler to the beginning of the film, but like there's basically a like dancer that jumps out of the building and kills herself in that film. And basically this is the movie about that dancer that kills herself. So you know where she'll end up. Then it's just like retelling basically the same story that they've done in Rosemary's Baby with a couple of twists, but nothing new and worthwhile. I found this to be quite underwhelming, and I was questioning, apart from being connected to Rosemary's Baby, what its existence is, like what the reason is. Obviously it's always money, I know, but Lachlan talking about like Nosferatu not showing the creature, it frequently shows like Satan in this over and over again. So, and that being like a part of the reveal in Rosemary's Baby, it's like odd to have it even on the post, even on the backdrop on Letterboxd. It's like in the reflection you see Satan. It's like it's so on the nose, and basically just like hammering home, hey, this was our imagery from the first one, and doing that throughout the whole film really takes away from its overall impact. And then speaking of, religious, whatever, over the top Christianity, devil stuff, Max and Sam Eggers, the younger half brothers to Robert Eggers, had their A24 film The Front Room drop in theaters. I don't know if it ever got to wide release, but it was in limited, and there wasn't a whole lot of promotion behind it by A24, and I can see why, because this movie doesn't really come together at all. It's basically about this woman who's about to give birth, and then her husband's dad passes away, and then her stepmother is basically invited into their home, invites herself into her home almost, and takes over more parts of their lives and basically wants to take away the baby from our lead. And the trailer was obviously like trying to emphasize on the racial tensions. I don't think that's even that big a focus in the movie. It's more of like just an old person gaslighting her son-in-law to like get a baby. In a way, it's like it's such a weird tonal mess, and I gave this one a 4 out of 10. Didn't really like it. An A24 miss here. And then briefly, I'm just going to give you like yes or no on these. My day one at the Zurich Film Festival had some interesting movies that I saw, like some surprises, some things that I didn't have on my radar at all. I watched On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. I missed this one earlier this year in Gun, and I thought it was just kind of okay. It's like a story about sexual abuse as well, and like the way that we as soon as someone's dead, they become a saint, even if they were maybe a piece of shit while they were living. It was interesting, that concept. I feel like I didn't get much out of it. There might be some people who really enjoy it though. Then My Favorite Cake, another Iranian film that really worked for me. It's like about an older woman who's all alone after her husband has passed away 30 years before. Her daughter moved out of Iran 20 years. 20 years ago, so she's like basically all alone, and in that solitude tries to maybe find someone, goes out there. The social commentary of it is there, and like why I guess this loneliness is also something that is perpetuated and emphasized with the current regime that's not allowing you to even seek out, and there's no place for unmarried women in that society. It was quite heartwarming. I didn't love how it concludes, but it had a lot of like really sweet moments in the middle. So yeah, that's that. Then Lachlan, you're probably interested in this. Hugh Grant as like a lunatic in Heretic. It actually works more often than not. I think this could have been an actual like classic horror film. It has a couple of missteps, I'd say, but some people are really not gonna vibe with it at some point. I felt in my audience, which I saw it at a press screening, there was like groans and like people were getting fed up with it. I thought like at some points I was revving up. It's like, yes, boy. It really leans into it. And I think Hugh Grant plays a character here that really like understands a younger generation, or at least he gives those vibes off. And I think that is quite intriguing for the character that he plays, that I don't want to spoil here. I think it doesn't really get ultimately in its thematic depth of what it sets up, which it is about religion and testing that, and like the notions of what religion is overall in a cultural global sense, not in the individual practices. But I found it a ton of fun still. I gave it like a favoring 7 out of 10, although towards the end there I was coming down on my rating. I was really high on it in the first half, and then it came down for me a bit. Sophie Thatcher is good in it, but she has a couple of like reaction shots where she's just doing the what other actors? Sydney Sweeney is also doing that acting with her like eyelids, where she's just like quickly closing and opening them, and it's becoming a pet peeve of mine really fast. Yeah, it just seems a bit over the top. Then a movie that stood out to me, On Falling, was this Portuguese Scottish movie about Aurora, who's like a Portuguese warehouse worker who who works in a warehouse. And it's like really quite a depressing movie because it's about like the realities of living in that sort of state in between, where you're always on the brink of not having enough money to make it through the week, and the depressing and grating nature of these jobs. I found it to be really moving. My highlight of the day, I actually gave that one an 8 out of 10. Then Gia Coppola's movie, The Last Showgirl, with Pamela Anderson, was a bit all over the place and a bit confusing to me. There's also Kieran Shipka, Jamie Lee Curtis, Dave Bautista, Brenda Song is in this, and Jason Schwartzman even has a guest appearance. I guess that's the Coppola brand that you get there. Yeah, Pamela Anderson's character is just like not that intriguing. Obviously, she's a flawed one in this, but I just couldn't really get into it as much. I found it a bit grating to like listen to her pipsqueak voice for 85 minutes. It's less than an hour and a half, but it felt like at least 100-minute long movie. It felt 15 minutes longer than it actually is. And yeah, the last movie I watched was basically this all over the place Swiss documentary Aiming High about the failed attempts to establish a race on Matterhorn on like in Zermatt, which has been a travel destination for lots of people, and they were trying to set up a race again when there hasn't been one since like the 80s, 60s and 70s, sorry. And it was like supposed to be like this downhill that starts on a glacier, and 2/3 of the race was supposed to be on a glacier, and like 4,000 meters up above sea level. And a lot of it was just like, why ultimately do this? It falls short twice because there's winds and there's not enough snow and all of those things. And the documentary just basically had access to a couple of skiers and then the people who were trying to set up this race, but it never comes together to like something coherent other than just having these things. I think it was a rather weak documentary overall. But yeah, I said I'm going to only say good or bad for these ZFF movies, but I couldn't help myself. We're going to have a full recap for it where I go over all of the films that I watched and even the ones that I've seen at previous festivals. So be on the lookout for that in about 1.5 weeks' time. But that is it for what we've been watching. Lachlan, let's get to the main review of the week for Joker Folie, the sequel to the 2019 hit piece by Todd Phillips that ended up getting a bunch of Oscars. Yes, it certainly won for score and for the performance. I don't know if it picked up a third one, maybe for cinematography, because that was another standout in that first iteration. It had us all collectively say society in a memeable fashion. And Lachlan, what is this follow-up to it? A French follow-up in a way, with music and a lot of staging and dancing. What is this one all about?
While struggling with his dual identity, Arthur Fleck not only stumbles upon true love, but also finds the music that always has been inside him.
Nice. Yeah, I remember. Did he sing in the first one frequently too? I can't remember.
I didn't rewatch the first one
Me neither.
in preparation because I didn't really want to. I wanted to see how this one would go without that, and I feel like I probably should have rewatched the first one.
I think it gives you enough like callbacks to it. I saw in an interview that they asked him about like why are they not using more shots from the first one to contextualize it, and they do that I think in a way, but not as much as maybe some other movies would. Because again, this feels like Todd Phillips wants to contribute something in a way where like the first one was about like society and how we treat, like, I don't know, and that combined with a character that we are familiar with. And this one's about like the media consumption of personalities, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Look, it's the same runtime as MegaFLOPolis. It certainly, I feel like, felt shorter than MegaFLOPolis. We can agree on that. They both were like 138 minutes long. The reception so far, last week, MegaFLOPolis was at a 2.7. It's at a 2.4 now. This one is also currently at a 2.7. When I came out of Venice, I think I was like, I didn't like it. I didn't want to hate on it because I felt like it felt like the expected thing to do with a follow-up to a very diverse, with not a diverse movie, but like there were a lot of different opinions on it. And Kevin obviously liked the first one, and in this one quite a bit too. I landed somewhere in the middle on it, which you can already hear my rating and my reviews in that other clipped one for Venice, but we'll get into spoilers for this one. All that to say, since then the reactions have really just like tanked this movie, and everyone who's now logging the film is logging it at like a 1.5 out of 5 for my mutuals. And I'm a bit confused because I don't think the movie is great. I don't think it's horrible. Like I'm a bit confused by the people who rate this lower than MegaFLOPolis, because it's like come on, there's a bit of range. This is not the same, but hey, everyone gets to have their own opinion. Over on IMDb it's a 5.5, and on Metacritic it's a 47. Like I said, it premiered earlier this year, about a month ago in Venice, where I caught it, and had a budget of $200 million. That's about 4 times the amount that the original cost, that ended up grossing over $100 million, and at the time of release was the highest grossing R-rated film ever. and this one is tracking to do quite a bit lower. I think from an audience perspective, if you're still on the verge of like, should I go see this or not, it's going to be a harder sell for people who really liked Joker for what it was in the first time around, because it's something completely different in the second one. And I really don't know how audiences are going to respond to it. There's always going to be the ones that are just going to eat up whatever's presented in front of them and claim it to be the most profound thing they've ever seen, and this is cinema. But I don't know how much it actually holds. And to get into that, Lachlan, I think we're gonna give you a spoiler warning straight at the start of this review so we can get straight into it. Yeah, what do you think of this follow-up?
So I wouldn't say a fan of the original. I really liked it from partially from like the music was fantastic, the cinematography was fantastic. I also was quite engaged with Joaquin Phoenix's performance as well, and that's what drew me the entire time. Was his performance as Joker was just it was good. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I think that he deserves that praise. I wasn't a over the top fan. I gave it a 3 on Letterboxd. That's what I've currently got it rated as a 3. And even though I wasn't a fan of maybe the overall narrative, at least it was. At least there was a character arc. For me, the first one, you do have the start where you have Arthur, and by the end you have Joker. And this film here, it, as it says on the logline summary,
the world is the stage.
While struggling with his dual identity, the biggest aspect of this film is Arthur the Joker, or is Arthur and Joker separate entities, multiple personality kind of situation? That's kind of what we're built on. And for me, what I was quite pissed off with at the start was the fact that we've just spent a whole movie coming from Arthur and getting Joker, and then we are now about to go through a whole movie again to get that exact same fucking narrative. Because we are right back at square one with Arthur. We do not have this Arthur and Joker character coming in and out, which is kind of what I was not expecting but hoping for when this film opened, because you don't get Joker until maybe like 30 to 45 minutes into this film. You don't get that character, right? And it's playing with this duality of this character. Is he Arthur? Is he Joker? And he doesn't there's musical moments that don't take place in reality, and that's when he's Joker. That's not what I'm looking for here. I'm actually looking for this conversation of is he or isn't he this one person or two people in this one body, and that really put me on a bad foot, because it's starting a sequel right at the beginning of where the first one started, and that's not what a sequel should do. You should definitely have both of these characters present, and not just one, not just have Arthur present. That's what really put me on the bad foot with Joker 2, first and foremost, is because we don't get Joker. We barely get him, where there's more of him in the first one. And that's the more interesting character for me. Like the evolution is there, but Joker is the fun side, the wild side, and we never get to this point in this film where we get to a high point. I don't think there's a high at all in this point. There's a conclusion at the end, which has a big moment, but there's never a high point. And what this should be doing is, if this is inevitably the end, because there's not really a Joker 3 planned at this stage, if this is inevitably the end, the high point was in the first movie. This is an outro. And that kind of sucks, because it's such a slow outro. This isn't as slow as something like MegaFLOPolis, but it's still quite a slow burn to have the like finishing off of this character, essentially. Because this film is just like, there's the high point, and here we're fading to the end over the next 138 minutes. So while the first one I was engaged with Arthur and his arc, in this one his arc is nothing. There's no Joker Arthur conflict. And if I'm honest, I was never fully engaged with Phoenix's performance as I was in the first one. I just don't think it was to the same level and dedication. Now, I don't know if that is Phoenix not fully engaged with this role, like he didn't want to come back for it, maybe. I don't know if it was maybe the character, how it was written, and his arc. But for me, I don't think the character was ever to the point that the first one was. And that's my first point, Ewan. And you can kind of tell where I'm going to be going with this.
Yeah, you're not. I mean, the first one was so much in the way, like you said, like it's doing that Arthur Fleck to Joker, and then it's what Joker is to the whole world, and yeah, how he fits in there, and what Kevin said that I found interesting is that basically the guards headed by Brendan Gleeson don't have the introduction of the Joker. They've seen maybe the same media things, but on the day-to-day, they are not with Joker, they're with Arthur Fleck. And what I think this movie tries to be about, and I think it kind of fails, is to see as soon as he has to step into the limelight, people have expected you to be this one part of you that is not reflecting you as a whole. And it's basically corners you to be that exact thing. And people go after you for a part of you. Like even Harley Quinn is interested in him because of that one reflection of his personality, and fakes the interest in the whole, and how maybe that can be the downfall of you. I don't know what the point is though. I don't know what he's trying to get at. And I had that same issue in the first one where it like had these ideas, but it didn't really put them together other than like, I don't know, no, this sucks about our world that like people with mental disabilities don't get the support they need. I'm just like, yeah, no, what, and like I what I also didn't like is that all of them, I think there's like 4 dream, and there might be more than 4D dream sequences, but it basically always gives you a transition point of like he goes to bed, he dreams, he wakes up, and it feels incredibly repetitive. It's just like it doesn't really carry that momentum, like you said. There's no high point to the story, and like I think to me, I audibly groaned, and I think I don't know if I was the only one, but I couldn't help myself. I usually hate when people do that. Like I had that yesterday where someone was sitting next to me in Heretic, and towards the end there, he was like, he had his foot on like the seat in front of him. There weren't like many people in it. It was like, you're already a douchebag. And then he was like groaning and like moving in his seat towards the end. I was like, dude, shut the fuck up. Just leave if you don't like it. And to me, I had that one moment where like Harley Quinn goes, poof. I was like, what is that? That is so incredibly performatively. Oh my god, I'm so edgy. I was like, I hate it. I couldn't help myself. Like this all seems performative, not on the level of, you know, Joker as this character being performative, but Todd Phillips as like this grandiose filmmaker trying to have a bigger statement in the film. It just feels also hollow.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the themes and the ideas that this film was trying to present aren't ever brought to a point where it makes sense. I don't think it ever gets to a point that it says anything. I think it's quite light. I think it's quite just surface, very like we're talking thin ice, surface level frost.
Yeah, I mean,
level
look, it's
of
literally
ideas.
the title. You know, it's like, oh, it's French, it's fancy. You know, that's the. And I thought that to a point, maybe that is a way to like get back at like the critics, not the critics, but like critics of the first movie. It was like, yeah, I'm going to make it pretentious, just sounding, just out of spite. And then it's like, there's no point to it. Like all of the American audience is not going to understand what Folie à Deux means.
So I got excited then.
It's a romance
with that
film,
case,
you know. Yeah,
because we now have Harley. And I was like, all right, sweet. Now we've got Harley. We're going to have this arc. And everything I said about Arthur's character is doubled with Harley Quinn's character because it is so underutilized and half-assed and stupid. In fact, you talk about people audibly moaning and groaning about particular things that happen. I think like half of her dialogue made me fucking cringe. I was just pissed off by dialogue more than anything else in this film. Just listening to what these people said was just frustrating, especially with monologue-esque scenes, especially with back and forth with Harley and Joker. Just none of it ever felt great. The moments that only ever felt like actually good for me was the little moments, like on the way to the courthouse, which we'll get to very shortly. There's him trying to figure out how he's going to do his smile. That shit is still great. There is no dialogue. It is just him in a car and just him going, like trying out different smiles to see what would be the best option. That is fantastic storytelling and character storytelling. No dialogue, just showing him in the back of a car trying to figure out something, and it says a lot more than back and forth between Harley Quinn and how she's gonna, like, you know, revolutionize him, creating this revolution, and that was super frustrating. And I think that from a music standpoint, because obviously getting into the musical stuff, that was never to a degree that was showy. Like, it was very much like this guy had seen like one musical in his life, and that's the only musical he's ever basing it off of, and it was his high school play musical. That was it. Like, it was such a underutilized concept that I was excited at first when I heard about this, but it was such an unutilized showy thing that, like, it should have been more showy. It should have been huge. Like, we have the budget to do it. What did they do? Just do a bunch of cocaine behind the scenes and just waste the money on fucking shitty dialogue? Because, yeah, man, everything that I liked about the first one, the cinematography was super boring in this one. Like, it did have these flary moments, but I was never, like, taken away by something. The music is, like, the needle drops are completely fine. Like, I liked them, but it was only in the moments that faded from the musical moments into something like the original score with the violin, and I was like, oh, I like that, because you can see, just from a audible standpoint, you can hear the sort of change in the characters' feelings going back to that, like, transition of Joker, because every time the violin played, it was kind of like Joker was coming out, and I was getting excited for that, but it never reaches this moment, and we never have a high. It's literally a flat movie the entire way, and then it just goes bloop bloop.
I think it is because it's like, it's reality back to dream, where there's a musical dancing sequence usually, or like a talk show thing, or dancing on the stairs. I don't know. But
Barely.
barely. Also, not dancing out of the courthouse, that, like, frequently featured thing that they even have on the posters, doesn't even happen in the movie. But I think that was just, like, cut from one of the dream sequences. So I think it's okay-ish, but yeah. But
Fuck, are we gonna get a director's cut?
Someone commented on a YouTube review that was like, oh yeah, pity this is like 2 hours long. I'm waiting for the director's cut that's 30 minutes. I don't know if I read that wrong, if, like, adding 30 minutes, or if it's just, like, cutting down the movie to be 30
Just
minutes.
30 minutes.
But the composer here, he'll do a good Nr.2. I'm sorry. Probably one of
Good
my
job.
worst performances when it comes to. I wouldn't be confident in that, but I think the score is way more in the background when that one didn't. The previous one, like, win the Oscar, and I think was one of the, like, you know, objectively great things about the first one, where it was a score that was in companion to the standout performance. And when you take both of those things away, where Joaquin don't really get to shine in smaller moments where it's just him, no dialogue, and the score really basically giving you cues of, like, okay, this is the violin, I think, was to me another standout, like, here's the Joker cue. They're effective, they're not moving, then they're not in service of what this great composer could do. So it ultimately feels underutilized for, like, a couple of singing bits that, to me, didn't add much. I think a musical sequence should always just, like, pretty straightforward, in a straightforward way, reflect what the characters are feeling and thinking, and it can do that in a heightened way. That's the nature of what we can accept with musicals, and it doesn't even really do that. It has the one courtroom scene where maybe you could say that it does that successfully. I think that was one of Kevin's highlights for it. To me, it was just a bit over the top and ran for a bit too long, where I was, like, at a point starting to cringe at what he's doing, because I can't help but see us as an audience experiencing this, and I can't really get engrossed in the moment of what he's doing. It just feels weird, odd, and pathetic, and you then just questioning, I'm supposed to root for what this character's realization is of who he ultimately should be, and then that is not even that big a concern for the film, at least narratively, until, like, the last third. And then, big spoilers here, it just gets cut short by him just like dying. And what was the point of that if like is it about like him not having the agency of him making that decision because someone else is going to take away the life? Or was it a big old statement at the end is like, ha, you as an audience don't get this character that you really were attaching yourself to, and this is a comment on how we consume media, that nothing is ever really dead and you just regurgitate it and not let it die? Is that why you need to have a conclusive stamp on it by the end? It's like, to me, that was another thing of like, why are you doing this? This background character you see, like, be focused on is like, okay, well, that's a character that pops up later on. It's just like so in our face as well. And to me, it's like a bunch of perplexing choices of how it comes together as this and what he ultimately, because he clearly wants to say something. What he wants to say, I'm still unsure. I'm still not sure. But a highlight to me, Lachlan, was that animated intro. I think that was something unique. You didn't like it? I think it was
pointless.
Maybe, but it was showy.
What does it do?
It had.
What does it do?
It's animated.
It doesn't do anything.
It's different. I mean, yeah, it doesn't add. I don't know about it.
You know what it does do? Actually, you know what it does do? I'll give it to you.
What?
It does a better job at showing the duality of Arthur's character of trying to fight between Joker and himself than the actual fucking narrative does for the rest of the movie. It's the only good example of him fighting between which one is him.
What did you think of like we talked about Lady Gaga a bit. I think to me she also didn't really work as that character. I think it was a mix between her lines and her.
And it's nothing to do with her performance. It is to do with how her character evolved and how stupid her dialogue is.
Yeah. I mean, the evolving, like how her character evolves in basically like this. It's basically lying and coming in, not really being from this world.
She's a con man.
Yeah, I don't know what it. Yeah, what was that about? I don't know. She just wants to see the world burn because she wants to.
Yeah, and I was hoping her, from what it was kind of doing, you could kind of see that she was manipulating Arthur to being the Joker, to being essentially this figurehead of this sort of like revolution, like outside. And that's what I thought it was leading towards. Like, she is coaxing, like, you have people in Arthur's life coaxing him towards different areas, coaxing him towards being Arthur, coaxing him towards being Joker. You have Harvey Dent trying to get him killed. You have people like he doesn't want, essentially you could be like Harvey Dent doesn't want him to tell more jokes, and then you've got someone like Brendan Gleeson's character who's like, tell me a joke, so you've got people pulling him in all these different directions. And I totally thought what we were going to be leading to was this massive like Joker revolution. And I was hoping, again, a movie has to come to a high point at some point to make his lows feel low, because at his lowest, he's not low because the whole movie's a low. Anyway, but I thought she was going to lead him into an area where he becomes the Joker. He puts it on here, and that's when, he rocks up. The moment I thought that was going to happen was when he fires his attorney, and I was like, sweet, here we go. Then he puts on the mask, and it's still Arthur, and look, it's frustrating because what I was hoping to go towards is always something that I can say about any movie, but this film just doesn't feel like it's thought out. This movie just feels like a dud. It feels like honestly, it was a waste of my time. I actually didn't feel like I get Megalopolis is a worse movie, but it's because it was overbaked. This one is underbaked.
Yeah. How about next week you get a movie that is like it's fucking baked? How about that?
What's next week?
The Apprentice.
Right, copy. Okay, no worries.
That's another interesting one. That one's a bit underbaked as well. I'd say it has a better performance though. Although the story itself isn't like it's not challenging. Yeah. I think, hey, the cinematography again. I think I think I haven't left a letterbox review for it other than just saying cigarettes and floodlights feels like the vibe for this whole film. Because, it's got floodlights all the time and they're smoking a bunch. And that's basically it. And you don't really get anything other than like that of substance in it. Yeah, I think the courtroom scene might be something that works for people where he's confronted with the co-worker that he was empathetic towards, that he was the only one who showed him sympathy when he usually was being bullied, and that person now being terrified of him is like one of the or is like the breaking point of him going back and forth right into this character. And then he's when it all explodes, the courtroom, he's basically at that point, I read it as like he's off a fleck, right? And then he's thrust into being what he doesn't want to be. Yeah, I can get the points that he tries to hit in this film, but like we said, I don't think it communicates them successfully. Ratings wise, Lachlan, where you at?
So I originally had this movie at a 2 stars.
Okay.
And I completely agree with you with people putting it at a 1.5 because it's not as bad as MegaFLOPolis. Yeah, which is why I'm going to be giving it 1.5 stars because through our conversation, I've realized Todd Phillips. I've realized what the theme is.
Philipping on my tongue.
How did I open earlier today with this? I said, Joker me, Joker you, Joker 2.
Mm-hmm.
The meaning of this movie is Todd Phillips has made you the Joker by seeing this movie.
Wow. We were the Joker all along. Damn. Yeah. I think I came out of this. I had in my little notebook from Venice, I had a 5.5 written down. I feel like I should stick with it because I haven't rewatched it and it's just been everyone else's response, so I'm going to stick with that, which I left it at a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I would probably move it down a bit because I also have that first one rated as a 2.5, and I don't think the second one is better than the first. But it's not a huge range for me. I feel like I'm not a fan of either of them.
Actually, you know what I'm going to do as well? I'm increasing my Joker rating to 3 to 3.5.
Okay. He actually liked that one. Let's go. Considering that we both really, that we both wouldn't recommend it to people who weren't planning on seeing it. What would you pair up as an alternative feature or a double feature? And don't you dare pick MegaFLOPolis as a double feature for Deux.
Okay, so obviously the first one is easy to pick a double feature because you had The King of Comedy and Taxi Driver as massive inspirations. So I guess the biggest massive inspiration I can recommend for this one is just taking a big old fucking dump on the fucking toilet because that's how Todd Phillips got inspired to make this movie.
Oh god. Okay. Well, I just typed into Google Duality of Men movie and Full Metal Jacket popped up, and hey, that seems like a good movie to recommend you instead. So go see Full Metal Jacket if you want to see someone be broken down into not being their own person anymore. I think that's a really effective movie at doing that, and the harm it can cause within the army.
I'll go watch
unexpected,
Shutter Island.
actually fitting double. Yeah, Shutter Island is another great one. That's true. Yeah, this is
go
a
watch
bunch
Fight
of movies
Club.
that did this.
Go watch Fight Club. Fucking hell, just go watch Fight Club. It's the exact same fucking movie.
Yeah, I guess Fight Club, one of the most popular films ever. Sure, that would be crazy if someone hasn't seen Fight Club, but I'm sure there's like millions of them, but like hasn't seen Fight Club, but goes in to see Joker Folie.
I don't know what I hate more this year: MegaFLOPolis.
I don't
Joker.
have a lot of hatred for this film. I reserved that all for like MegaFLOPolis.
Borderlands. I think I liked Borderlands more than I liked this movie.
That is crazy. Back-to-back movies that we both didn't really like. Next
and
week,
Scargiver.
Apprentice. Scargiver?
Rebel Moon.
Rebel Moon. I was about to say, like, what's Scargiver? Already left our collective mind. There's a couple new releases that release on the week of October 11th. That's a new release date for The Apprentice that got picked up by a smaller distribution company. It's also going to be out in Australia this week. In Switzerland, you have to wait another week, but because I've already seen it in Cannes, it will likely be the main focus of our review next week. Then Piece by Piece is coming out in the States only. In Australia, you have to wait until December 5th for that one. And in Switzerland, we don't even have distribution. We have distribution, but we don't have a release date for it yet. So we won't be sharing our thoughts on that one. As well as Saturday Night, that goes into wide release in the States, but you have to wait a couple more weeks in Australia. October 31st is when it comes out there. And again, for Switzerland, we don't have a release date. That's why I was emphasizing earlier before that if you have a chance to go see films at a local film festival, for a lot of it, especially for the international ones, it really could be worth it if you're interested in these films, because there's no guarantee that they will ever get a theatrical release. And for some of these, they're definitely best experience in a theater. But then also Terrifier 3. The second one was a slam hit, especially commercially, and got a lot of new fans onto it. This third one is out in the States and in Australia. And yeah, I didn't really like that second one. I think it was just like a bit of a bloody mess, but some people absolutely love that type of shit. So here you go. There's the third one. Out on VOD this week, we got Beetlejuice out in premium VOD, as well as Hellboy, The Crooked Man, which is also playing in select theaters I saw in Australia. And Never Let Go with Halle Berry comes out on premium VOD as well. And then over on Netflix, we got a couple of titles like Woman of the Hour, the Tomb Raider animated show, The Legend of Lara Croft, Outer Banks Season 4. Then over on Prime, we got Citadel Diana. I got the trailer for like 2 of these spin-off shows on the same day. I was like, damn, okay, they're just like... it's on the production line, it's just coming up, pumping out. If there's interest, who cares? They're being made. And then highly praised from my side for the Apple TV Plus show Disclaimer that stars the Tar lead Cate Blanchett and Sacha Baron Cohen in a really interesting series about like perspective and memory and guilt, and also lots of other themes that I found to be infinitely more interesting than Joker. So if you want a recommendation for what you should check out, that show comes out weekly. I think it starts airing on the 12th, so give that a try if you're interested. And then no special release, solo release on Australia here, but we get the belated release date of Transformers 1 over in Switzerland. But yeah, that is it for the new releases this week. Like I said, next week, I think we're going to take a look at The Apprentice, coming out just in time for the election that I think is happening in the States in like less than 3 weeks' time or something.
And
like that.
maybe instead we should just do Joker again, because we should watch it
Folie
twice, because obviously that's what we're meant to do.
No, we should invite Kevin, and then it's Folie à Trois, right? Because we have
Folie
3
à Trois.
people. Yeah. Exactly. Well, The Apprentice is also a bit of a misleading title here because it ends like 20 years before he hosts The Apprentice. Yeah, I like the film for the performance and some of, showing someone despicable and their rise and how that is even capable, and then that being a critique of the logic. We'll get into that next week a bit more. But as a movie itself, it has some shortcomings too. But certainly worth checking out. And if you can see it, go see it. We'll try and do maybe a bigger non-spoiler portion for that one. But all of that next week. In the meantime, again, subscribe to not miss all of the coverage. Follow me on my socials. I'll also be talking about the Zurich Film Festival, and as the Ghent Film Festival starts next week, check out Kevin on his channels. He'll be active there as well. And Lachlan will probably keep... You don't really tweet, but maybe you post about like watching more of Tarkovsky. Maybe he'll be talking about that. At least check out his letterboxd. So we'll be staring at his review for 30 minutes and then leave a 1-sentence review for it.
Pretty much.
So yeah, that's what you can get. But we'll see you next week.
Bye.